How's it going, OFPs? And welcome to another episode of the Off-Field Players Podcast, the only podcast for aspiring sports industry professionals. I'm your host, Philip Hall, and I hope everybody's having an awesome week or weekend by the time you're listening to this. And I know for me, it's been an awesome day for me, but I don't want to ruin the surprise for everybody. I'll talk about, why I'm so amped up, why I'm so excited about, today in particular, because really this episode really comes full circle with the guest I bring on for another informational interview on the Off-Field Players Podcast. This will be informational interview number 7. And yeah, just everything about this particular interview comes full circle. But why it comes full circle, I'm going to explain about in the future episode. But before I go any further in introducing my guest for today on the Off-Field Players Podcast, I want to remind everybody, if you're watching the video version, to make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the link to anybody that you know is interested in trying to work in the sports industry. And it really just helps us grow the channel as we're continuing to grow the OFP family. And if you're listening to this on the audio version, make sure to continue to follow, continue to give a 5 stars, and also continue to share on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts to anybody that you know that's interested in wanting to know more about the sports industry and how to get into it. And of course, make sure to follow us on social media at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Again, it's at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. So with that being said, I want to go further in introducing my next guest for the Off-Field Players Podcast. And like previous guests I've had on, I've connected with her through LinkedIn. She actually is responsible for her own business and helping more people to get into the sports industry herself. So definitely, big props to giving her and make sure to highlight her on today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, OFPs, please welcome to the Off-Field Players Podcast, Miss Parul Khosla. All right, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
So to give everybody a little bit of a backstory on Parul and me mentioning about her entrepreneurial background, she currently runs her own business called Elevate Sports Talent. I'm going to save the backstory behind Elevate Sports Talent because I don't want to ruin the surprise and take the light away from Parul. So Parul is going to highlight her experience in entrepreneurship, running her own business, and also highlight her expansive experience working in the sports industry. Because if you go to her LinkedIn account, and I'll make sure to leave the link to it in the description, her experience in the sports industry is second to none. Just been all over the map, worked for a lot of reputable sports organizations, sports teams, and now is taking her talents that she learned in her work experience and transferring over to her entrepreneurial experience. So Parul, it's definitely great to have you on here, and it's going to be exciting for the OFPs to hear about your story.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited too.
All right, Parul, yeah, thank you so much for coming on here, and really just to give the OFPs a quick introduction to who you are. Just tell them about yourself. Where you're from. Where you went to high school, and really just your first introduction into the sports industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I am from New Jersey, born and raised a Jersey girl, but not like the ones that you have seen on Jersey Shore. I grew up in Freehold, New Jersey, so pretty close to the Jersey Shore, but again, we're not taking that comparison. And I went to, Freehold High School, was the high school that I attended. Most of my life, I played sports or watched sports. So I played competitive soccer growing up as a kid, and then in high school, I was on the varsity tennis team and actually the captain of the team my senior year.
Nice.
I did not go on to play sports in college because of the time commitment. It was too overwhelming. I was like, I can't do it. But I do continue to, play tennis to this day, which I love. As far as watching sports, I grew up with my first love being the New York Mets. My dad always would take us to games at Shea Stadium. And that was kind of just the first time I really, I think, had a passion for anything was when I discovered my love for baseball. My dad taught me the rules and the basic understanding of the game, but I really just took that and made it my own. I would just research everything about baseball. I would learn everything about the Mets, but also about all the other teams and all the other players and the different divisions and stuff like that until I kind of became an expert. And I don't know, that's just kind of when I knew that like sports had to have something to do with my life forever, because I've never been so passionate about anything else. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And now I'm here.
Oh yeah, that's awesome to hear, Parul. And also, who was your favorite player on the Mets growing up? Like
Oh,
who?
God. So, I mean, I definitely have an answer to that. It's David Wright. There's multiple reasons why he was my favorite player. One, because he was just awesome to watch. Like he had so much potential, which is very sad given how his career like ultimately ended. But he was just so exciting to watch. He had so much talent. But also, as a teenage girl, he was nice to look at, like on the field as well. So there were a lot of things going on there. But really him and kind of also the team dynamic between him and Jose Reyes, like I really loved the both of them. They were both kind of like my favorite players.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it makes me really nostalgic to think about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about in tennis? Do you have a favorite tennis star?
Oh, it's a good question. I always loved Serena Williams. I feel like that's kind of the expected answer, like a most common answer. But I watched her all the way through my childhood, and she was amazing. But yeah, I mean, now I really love Coco Gauff. I
Oh
actually
yeah.
saw her win the U.S. Open finals. I was at that match, and it was like,
Oh, you were there?
yeah, I was there. Yeah, it was
Nice.
super cool. And yeah, I think she just has such a bright future ahead of her. So I just love watching her.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Coco is someone that we promoted heavily on the Off Field Players podcast
Oh,
when the
nice.
Open was taking place, and
Yeah,
just highlighting her success and also just how far she's come, and she's the next one up. So it's
yeah,
definitely she definitely has a bright future, and
yeah.
really just like seeing the talent of tennis players coming up now. We're seeing Coco
Mm-hmm.
Gauff, Naomi Osaka. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be, I think, with Serena Williams kind of slowly, of course, being semi-retired, but I think
Right.
she's probably taking more of a back seat now. It's great to see the
Yeah.
future of the sport continue to grow, especially with the plot, like the foundation that Serena set for everybody that's
Right.
playing at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah. As far as well, we heard the introduction to the sports you played growing up from soccer, like watching baseball as well as playing tennis all the way through high school.
Yeah.
Like, what experience, whether that was in high school or college, did you see yourself wanting to work in the sports industry?
Yeah, it's a good question because even though I was so into sports, like my whole life was about sports growing up, I never actually thought about working in the industry as a career. And I think that's, for a lot of reasons. I grew up in an Indian family in,
Hmm.
New Jersey. I didn't know anybody that worked in sports like ever. I had no idea that was a career path that you could even consider. Um,
Hmm.
and so I didn't consider it. Like it was never like top of mind for me. I had no idea it existed. I always, watched the games, but I never really put any thought into like who was putting these games on or like what was happening behind the scenes until I got to college. And I remember in college, I was at a meeting for like the marketing club in the business school because that's what I was doing at the time. I was a business major, like in the business school, and I was talking to her about like how much I love sports, and I just remember her saying like, "Why are you not a sport management major?" And I was like, "What? What is that?" Like that was crazy. And then I immediately, went back to my dorm. I Googled it. I read everything about it. I met with the advisors of the major.
Hmm.
And then I was like, obviously, this is me. Like, everybody tells you in college, to do what you're passionate about and like follow your dreams. And I just didn't know what that was. And I had a really hard time figuring out what I wanted to do because I just didn't have anything that I was passionate about until I learned that you could work in sports. And then I was like, well, duh, that's like the only thing I've ever been passionate about. But I just never, I guess I never saw myself in the sports industry, and I never knew that it was something I could ever do until that moment. So really, it wasn't until I got to college that I realized it was something I could do at all, like in general.
So you went to Rutgers,
Yes.
and Rutgers is very well known in sports. It's probably one of the the top, universities that has one of the best sports programs in New Jersey. And not
Yeah.
to throw any shade or anything, but I went
Yeah.
to St. John's, and
Okay.
I consider St. John's to be, like the upper echelon when it comes to, like college sports and just
Right.
in the tri-state area. But
Yeah.
but like, what was the sports program or sport management program like at Rutgers for you, like from your perspective?
Yeah, honestly, it was amazing. Like I loved everything about the program. Really, it came down to the professors and the actual like executives that run the program. Um, they're top notch. Like they all are like seasoned veterans in the sports industry. They come back and they teach these classes at Rutgers, and it just to me goes way deeper than I think what you would expect from a sports management curriculum. Like we were doing case studies, we were actually partnering with companies and doing like real consulting work for them. Like they bring in all kinds of guest speakers from their own connections in the sports world. So there was a lot of networking that took place in our classes, which obviously everybody knows like networking is so important for
Mm-hmm.
getting a job in the industry. And
Right.
it was just like a really great experience, especially for somebody that, didn't know anything about the industry beforehand, and being able to learn everything and dive deeper into the industry and the market trends and everything that was going on, and also kind of like examine what I might want to do in the industry. It was really, really helpful. And then just the expertise and the connections of the professors was definitely like the icing on the cake. It was top notch.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you do bring up a great point there when it comes to networking and getting like those experiences in the sports industry. I know when I was in school, I really went to my professors asking them like, oh, how can I get a job, or like where should I
Yeah.
find internships? Can you look over my resume? Can you
Yeah.
do things like that?
Yeah.
And and I think the one thing that I really like to talk about with the OFPs is not so much being like, oh, you need to have education or anything like that. I think it's more when we think about the college experience and understanding like how can we value it, because thing with college, uh, there's a lot of money to go for four
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get a master's, another chunk of money that you're going to have to pay for maybe another 1 or 2 more years, 3 years.
Yeah.
Six if you're talking law school or med school, and and I think when we really think about what we look at when we're undergrad, it's just about trying to make those connections early on,
Mhm.
and I've brought this up in previous episodes to where, go talk with your professors, like build a connection with them, go to the career services office at your college, have them look over your resume, have them help you in your job search. And because, let alone, you never know, like your professor could be the one to help you get your first job out of school.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like what they want also. Like they want to help their students get into the industry. So utilizing them is just a no brainer. I feel like for somebody that's majoring in sports, but also like you said, like it's not necessary to go to college to work in sports. It's also not necessary to be a sport management major and work in the industry. Like I work alongside tons of business and communications and psychology and sociology majors and all types of other majors. So there's it's not a one track like you have to work in sports or you have to go to school for sports management to work in sports. Like you
Oh,
can
yeah.
come from all different backgrounds. It's just my experience doing sports management was really awesome and definitely helped for my career.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Parl.
So in regards to the habits that you started for yourself that helped contribute to your work ethic, like what would you say were some of the things you picked up in school that brought onto your repertoire, in graduating and also early on in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the main habit that I picked up in college was just the grind, like just learning how to actually like hustle to get what I wanted, and like spending a lot of time on my career. I think that, a lot of other people that I knew at Rutgers or other friends that I knew that went to other schools, like they were spending a lot of their time socializing, partying, joining fraternities and sororities, and all that stuff is great. I personally, though, like just didn't do that. And I was just like, I am here to graduate and have a career. And I already felt a little bit behind because I was a transfer student to Rutgers. I did go initially to American University in Washington, D.C. Just wasn't my vibe. The school was way too small. And so I decided to transfer as a sophomore. So coming into Rutgers as a transfer student, I think all transfer students kind of feel like they're a little bit behind and like they have some catching up to do. So I think that just having that in the back of my head really motivated me to like want to put in like the extra effort for my career. So what I ended up doing is like, obviously I worked really hard in all of my classes, but outside of my classes, I was always applying for internships. I was taking, courses like LinkedIn courses or like whatever I could to kind of grow my skills and my knowledge base. I started a blog about the Mets, which I don't recommend that anybody reads now. It's from like 2015, but it was my way of like trying to do something that would differentiate me like on my resume from other candidates, and also like kept me involved in the industry and just kind of like making sure that I was staying up to date on everything that was going on that I was passionate about. And I think that all of that extra effort, and then obviously I did 6 internships in college, which is not normal either, but having done all of that, obviously helped me get to where I am today and work at the types of organizations that I worked at. Not saying that you have to be as crazy as I was, like definitely also have a social life. I'm not saying not to have a social life,
yeah,
but
of course.
I kind of went like the total extreme and was like, college is temporary, my career is forever. Like I'm going to just use this time to really learn how to grind and how to hustle, because that is a lot of what you do when you work in sports. Like that's the mentality that you have to have in this industry. And that has helped me for my whole career.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do emphasize a lot, or at least, you probably don't have to hear it from me, but I'm sure, you could hear it from professors like, oh, you need experience. You need to connect with the right people and continue to grow your network. And yeah, 6 internships. I mean, yeah, it may not seem as ideal when you think about other careers, but, I think when you understand the competitiveness of the sports industry, sometimes, that's all that you'll probably get starting out, once you continue to build those skills. And there's actually a segue into the next thing I wanted to ask. And, you mentioning that you had 6 internships in college, like all within the sports industry. So, did you ever feel that you were getting any situational work experience from any of your internships?
Oh yeah, like 100%. Yeah, I felt like all of them gave me situational work experience. Like the thing about school is that your classes are great for kind of teaching you like the basics and like setting the broad picture and things like that. And you do, group projects and like other like assignments and stuff. And those are great. And like those skills do help you in your career, but it's nothing compared to like doing an internship, especially in like the sports industry. Like my internships were not like make copies and get coffee. Like I was like doing actual work, way above my pay grade, like work that like a full-time employee would be doing. Like I was setting up events, I was executing events, I was talking with external partners, I was meeting with people just by myself, like as an intern, like still in college. I was doing like real actual work that like full-time employees were doing, just with, the intern title, but the experience was amazing because I got to take all of that and bring it into my full-time career, whereas like other people that had not had that actual internship experience, they lacked some of those like professional skills and other things that just kind of like set me apart from the competition. So it was super good experience, and definitely helped me in my career.
Wait, can you tell the OFPs exactly where you interned so they just have an
Yeah.
idea? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. Going all the way back to the beginning, my first internship was with Rutgers Athletics Department. Just a side note, like if you're looking for your first internship, look at your school. Like that's the easiest internship to get, like for the first one. Usually it's not paid, but deal with it because eventually you'll get paid internships. But it's super, super easy to get in that way. So I interned with the marketing department the spring semester of my sophomore year. And then the summer after my sophomore year, I interned with the New Jersey Jackals, which is a minor league baseball team, unaffiliated in New Jersey, also not paid, but really good experience. If you ever have the opportunity to work in minor league baseball, it is a whole experience like in itself, but it's very valuable as you get further into your career. I came back fall semester of junior year. I interned again with the Rutgers athletics department in a different capacity for the football team. Nice. And then the summer after my junior year as a rising senior, I interned with the New York Mets in their community relations department.
Hey.
My favorite team. I was like, all my dreams have come true. I have accomplished all of my goals. I'm 20 years old. Like, what do I do?
Like, you thought you reached the mountaintop with that one.
I was like, how did I already get there? Like, what do I do now for like the rest of my life? But that was amazing. And the 3 internships that I did before that is the reason why I got to intern with the Mets. Like, they don't hire people that have no prior internship experience. So you do have to have something and then work your way up, right? Like a player, starts in the minors and works their way up to the majors. Like, you have to do the same thing for your career. You can't just expect to go straight to the major leagues because it's the competitive nature of the industry. Right. So I got to the Mets. I did community relations for them. Fall of my senior year, I did a game day internship for the New York Jets. So I worked only on game days, which ended up being like every other Sunday. And then my spring semester of my senior year, I interned at Major League Baseball. This was a full-time internship. We, as part of our major, we have to do a 6-credit like full-time internship in our senior year. So I did that in the fall semester, and I worked at the MLB league office in New York City full-time, and I was doing youth programming. So we were working on the MLB's like RBI program for inner city youth kids and running all of their programming. And then I was also working on some grant programs to help give funding to youth baseball and softball leagues in inner cities so that they can buy equipment and refurbish their fields or whatever they needed that for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely all, great experiences. Just hearing you start at Rutgers, and I know like a few episodes ago, I had somebody on that really did emphasize the importance of, if you're trying to look for sports industry experience while you're in school, just start at your school. And, every college, and NCAA or NAIA at all levels, they have some kind of, sports, athletic programs, and they're always looking for interns. Yeah. And like you mentioned, most of them won't be paid, but it does help you get the credit that you need and the experience that you need, because, once you have that experience on your resume, then that's when you can start going a little bit more bigger, work for professional teams, work for, other colleges, or, like work for a local league or something. And, then, hearing you transfer over that into working with professional teams and doing what you did with them, I mean, this definitely goes to show that, it really all starts from, the groundwork for where you are, like where you have access to. I think that's the one thing about entering for your school. You have access to that.
Right.
Definitely, big props to you for bringing that up for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Very important.
Yeah. So, knowing that you had the 6 internships, what do you think it took for you to land your first full-time role in the sports industry coming off your 6th one?
Yeah. Well, full transparency, I got my first job after college through a connection that I made in my internships. So we talk about networking and how important it is, and that's very overplayed terminology, like I know. But it's true. Like, it's like the reason people say it all the time is because it's actually true. Your connections are everything. And a lot of the reason why I did so many internships was, 1 for the experience, but 2 for the connections, and, making as many connections as I could so that I could use them to help me out like later on in my career. So when I was interning at MLB, I was getting close to the end of my internship, graduating, needed a full-time job. And somebody that I worked with there happened to know someone at the NFL league office who was hiring an assistant in football operations. And they sent my resume over. I got an interview and I got that job. And I would never have gotten that job if I had just applied through their regular application pool. I mean, it's the NFL. It's like so competitive. It's like the most competitive league probably to get into. But because I knew somebody that had a really close connection, I was able to get that job, and that kind of catapulted my career.
Like, what was your first reaction when you first heard that you got the job?
I was freaking out. I was actually in London, so I was not in America. Like I wasn't here. But what happened was like my internship at MLB ended, and I was interviewing for that role at the same time. And then I went on a trip like all throughout Europe after my internship ended, just to celebrate myself in my graduation. Cool. And so I found out that I got the job like while I was on that trip. It was like the first day that I was out there that I got the email, and I like completely lost my mind, and it was the best trip ever for that reason.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance, but did you watch the London game on Sunday with I think it was the Jaguars and the Falcons, I think.
Yeah, I did not watch it because it was too early, but I've watched many other London games, and they're super cool. Like I love the energy of the London games and like how into it like all the fans get. It's like it's a good market for an expansion. Like,
yeah. I always had this theory that with what the NFL is doing with just international expansion, I really believe that there at some point can be an international team for the NFL.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, every other every major professional sports league, like the MLB has an international team, like the NBA has an international team. Of course, the NHL has a bunch of different international teams in Canada. But but the NFL, I feel like they're behind on it. I feel like they need to ramp up the pace if they're going to Mexico, if they're going to Germany, if they're going to London every year. Like if you're trying to grow the game internationally, I feel like you need to have an international franchise, and they can still stay within North America. I'm not saying put a team in London yet, but still have you could have some kind of push for the international team to come.
Yeah, for sure. I think if anything, they would start in Canada, or maybe in Mexico, because the Mexico City games are also like super popular when they go out there. But yeah, I mean, almost every other league, right, has a team in Canada, at least one. So I think that the NFL is due for that. There's also like the CFL and like very popular. Like, football is very popular up there also, so it would make a lot of sense.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So now I want to go more into your entrepreneurial experience. Looking over your LinkedIn and seeing that you are the founder of Elevate Sports Talent, it would be great for the OFPs to listen about the backstory behind, why did you want to start Elevate Sports Talent, and what does the business exactly entail? Like, what do you offer when it comes to, presenting a service for people?
Yeah, so Elevate Sports Talent was born out of just my passion for helping people find their dream careers in sports. As you just heard from my entire sports career and journey, like I was somebody that grew up with a true passion for sports, no connections to the industry, and really worked like very hard to get the opportunities that I got. And I don't regret anything about it. It was an amazing journey, but it would have been better if I had some help or like somebody to help guide me, or just any kind of resources that would have helped me kind of get to where I was going, maybe a little bit faster, or maybe not make as many mistakes as I made along the way. And so kind of taking that into perspective along with my actual work experience. So while it was not mentioned here, but you could see on my LinkedIn, I ended up going into the recruiting and diversity and inclusion space for my career. So I did that work across many different companies. I worked with the NFL, like I mentioned, as well as the NHL League office, Madison Square Garden, and Minute Media. And so I think as a recruiter and a DEI professional, I also have kind of a really unique understanding of what it takes to get a job in the sports industry, especially at these large scale organizations, and kind of who stands out and what you really need to do to get those jobs. And so combining that kind of insider knowledge with my own experience as a job seeker in the industry, I came up with the idea for Elevate Sports Talent. It's a very new business. I just started it in June of 2023. So as of today, it's 4 months in operation, which seems like a very short amount of time. It also kind of feels like it's been 4 years with how many things I've done with it in the last 4 months. But primarily what we do right now is career coaching services for either individuals that are currently in the sports industry or aspiring sports business professionals. We do career coaching sessions with our clients to help them with whatever it is that they most need help with in their career, whether it's finding a job, landing their first internship, networking, personal branding, interview prep, or just general like career development. So, getting a promotion or figuring out what your next step is going to be, all the way up to growing your leadership capabilities and skill sets. We work kind of with our clients on anything that's going to help them get to that next stage in their career, whatever it is that they want to do. While we're starting out right now with the coaching sessions that you can book, we also have job search like assistance that is bookable on our website as well. So we do resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn profile revamps for anybody that is actively job seeking and wants to help stand out and kind of take their application materials to the next level. And we're also building out some really cool stuff that I'm planning to release in the next few months that will help even more people and make our services and all the knowledge that we have to provide even more accessible to more types of people.
Right on. I mean, it definitely sounds like a great business concept for sure. And I'm sure even though it's still young, it hasn't learned how to walk on its own yet.
Yeah.
It's still I feel like it's a very valuable service to offer for sure, because and just even the backstory behind it, because when I think about people starting businesses, I feel like they start a business for a reason, not just to start one just to start one, but I feel like there needs to be a story behind it. Like every major corporation has like a story. Coke had a story. McDonald's had a story. Nike had a story. I mean, and for you, it's great that you're using your story to establish the business so you can help others out. So coming with starting your own business, especially coming out of like the corporate world or anything like that, there's a lot of risk when you quit your job and then you go all in on your business. So like, how did you feel after you left? Because you like your last job before you started business was with the NHL, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So like, how did you feel quitting that job and going into starting your business? Like, were you nervous? Like, what were some of the things that you were concerned about? Just knowing, that being an entrepreneur is, at times it can be risky.
Yeah. I was terrified, to say the least. It's not a comfortable thing to do, to just kind of leave like your security blanket of making a stable salary and having health insurance and things like that, which are, obviously like essentials for anybody to have. But I think that, entrepreneurs also have this risk tolerance that kind of drives their success. Like, you have to take a risk in order to reap the rewards. And that's kind of my mindset going into this. Obviously, it's scary. It could go any which way. The business could not succeed. Like a year from now, we could come back and figure out that I didn't do things the right way, but it wouldn't necessarily be a failure. It would be like a learning experience. And I think of myself kind of as a lifelong entrepreneur. Like, I think that I'm always going to be in the space. I might go back to, working for a league or a team again. But who knows? Like, and that's kind of the fun of being an entrepreneur and working for yourself is like you can make those decisions. You can figure out, what you want your future to look like and try to craft that. But yes, it was very nerve wracking. I was really scared. I planned as much as I could, as I could in advance to make sure that, I wasn't going to get evicted from my apartment or something like that. But I had all kinds of worst case scenarios planned out, but luckily I haven't needed any of them. So fingers crossed. But it was terrifying. But I had really good support systems around me. My family, my friends, my colleagues at the NHL. They all really supported me and encouraged me to take this step. I wasn't sure if anybody would care about my advice or what I had to say, or if anybody would even purchase a single coaching session with me. Imposter syndrome has always played heavily in my life. And so I didn't even know if I was qualified enough to do something like this. But I've been very pleasantly surprised with the just response that I've gotten to elevate sports talent, on LinkedIn, from people I don't even know, but also from people I do know. And it's been really awesome. So I'm excited to see where it takes me in the future.
Yeah. So when you had this idea in place, did you bring on a co-founder, or were you able to find your first employee? When you started back in June, what was that process like?
Yeah. Well, so I've actually been doing this completely solo. So I don't have a co-founder. I don't have any employees. It's just me right now. Just obviously to keep the expenses low in the beginning. The goal, though, is to grow and be able to bring people on that will help kind of grow the business and make it even better and even stronger. So yeah, but up until now, it's just me. Just a solo show. Yeah.
You hear that, OFPs? There's future job openings coming up at Elevate the Source Talent, so be on the lookout when payroll posts them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's awesome. But in regards to just transitioning over into your entrepreneurial experience, when did you have a moment where you had to deal with adversity and just getting the business off the ground? Were there second thoughts oh, is this even gonna work? What? How can I not mess this up? What was going through your mind, or what events of adversity did you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much adversity when you are starting a business. It's just a whole different world, you have no idea, and you also have no control over who is going to interact with your company, who's going to purchase anything, and who is actually going to want what you have to offer. When I first launched everything, I saw really immediate success in the first week that I launched the business. A lot of people were talking about it and it was buzzing, and I was getting a lot of consultations and stuff like that coming through, which was awesome. And then you kind of take it a month later, and all of that kind of initial hype has died down, and now it's just a business. And I didn't know how to capitalize on all of that excitement that I saw in the beginning of the company when I first launched. And so I had to really quickly learn a lot of marketing and a lot of sales tactics to keep my business relevant. I took some online courses, whatever I could find. I asked friends that are also entrepreneurs, family members, and I also asked my clients, the people that I had worked with within the first month of my business. I surveyed them. I asked them about their experience, what I could have done better. And then I also asked people that didn't purchase anything with my business, people that had maybe scheduled a consultation and learned about my services but didn't end up booking anything. I went back to them and I asked them, what would it have taken for me to get your business? What did you need in that situation? And I used all of that to come up with a better marketing strategy, which includes a lot of LinkedIn postings. So I know you follow me. If any other people follow me, you see that I post pretty much every day. And that's intentional because LinkedIn, has algorithms, and there are things that you have to do to stay relevant so that people continue to see your posts and who you are. and you become more visible. And so I did a lot of things to try and make sure that I didn't hit like a period where nobody was finding me, nobody was interacting with me, nobody was purchasing anything. It's like a scary time, and I feel like I go through that maybe every month. Like once a month, I go through the same thing. Like, oh no, I'm seeing like a dip in engagement. Like, what do I do? Like, I have to do something else, and you just have to be that as an entrepreneur, as a founder. Like, you have to always be very aware of like the engagement with your business and how customers are interacting with it, and then be able to learn really fast and adapt really fast and pivot really fast and not kind of get stuck on a specific idea and think that this is the best idea in the world. Like, you have to be open to changing it or evolving, and kind of growing with whatever your customers want and need from your business. So that is a learning curve that I'm still on right now.
Yeah, and there's a website for your business. Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, website, and what about social media presence besides LinkedIn?
Yeah, so there's a website. It's elevatesportstalent.com. We have a LinkedIn page, and then we also have a Instagram and a TikTok account.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm a solo content creator, just trying to get as much out there, and that has been kind of the main source of marketing for me right now at this stage of the business. And so far, it's going good. It's successful. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do you. I'll do you a solid in helping grow your business. So what I'm gonna do is that I'll leave a link in the description to the website, and also I'll make sure to tag it when the social media post for this episode goes up, so people can know where to find you, and also we'll look more into it, and help you bring in more customers, more clients that can use your resources.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, Beryl, just transitioning, more into just the personal side, knowing that mentorship is an important part of career development, who do you consider to be a mentor that helped you get your foot in the door in the sports industry?
Yeah, I think earliest on in my career, like my first mentors were probably my professors in college. Even though I didn't think about them as that at the time, like looking back, I think that they were the first mentors I ever had. I had two professors in particular that were really like invested in my career growth, and they kind of went out of their way to schedule time with me outside of class and help me like better understand like what I was doing or the industry, or prepare me for stuff with resumes and cover letters and things like that. And also like to introduce me to people that they knew and like help me kind of get my name out there. And so that was kind of the earliest mentorship that I had. And if you're lucky enough to be mentored by a professor, like definitely take that opportunity. Like, they are more valuable than you probably think they are, like when you're in college, but you'll realize it afterwards when you're looking back on the experience. I think since then, I haven't honestly had too many mentors in my career. I've had a lot of sponsors. So if listeners don't know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, like a mentor is somebody that works with you on your career development and like helps you with your career goals and uses their expertise to give advice to you. A sponsor is somebody that actually uses their authority and their power to open doors for you and like give you opportunities. And so while I think that I may have lacked some mentorship in my career, like in the early stages, I've now come to realize how important mentors are, and I do have a few. I did have a lot of sponsors when I was kind of rising through the ranks, which is a lot of the reason why I was able to have the success that I did. I had people like the person at MLB that sent my resume over to the NFL. Like, that's how I got that job.
Nice.
I've had people literally like take my resume and give it to other people, or introduce me to people they know, or like bosses like that I had in roles like promote me from within and like help me get opportunities that I was interested in. Those are super valuable. And if you ever get to that position where you have the power to help somebody else in their career, like that's one of the most valuable things that you could do for them. And so I definitely had a lot of those coming up in the industry.
Yeah, well, you're already there yourself. I mean,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
with the business and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely practicing what you preach. So
Yeah.
great on you for doing that.
Thanks.
And yeah, and you do bring up a very important aspect. With just professors. I'll say this. For me to land my first sports industry, well. Well, officially, actually, yeah, I'll say officially, my first sports industry internship, was with 2311 Racing in NASCAR. And I wouldn't have been able to get that role if it wasn't for my professor, Professor Timothy McGee. Shout out to him if he's watching this. And yeah, and to this day, even I'm like 6 months removed from, well, not 6 months, no, May. Yeah, 5 months removed from graduating from St. John's. I still keep in contact with Professor McGee. Dr. Nancy Kaplan. She was a big advocate for me. Like whole time I was in school, and yeah, just even mentors that I've had in my personal life from like my pastor, Dr. Lawrence Van Hook. Former baseball coaches, Eric Clayton being one of them, and also mentor Taj Deshambe, who actually gave me my first introduction to the sports industry when I gave the word out that that's something that I want to do. That's something that I want to go to school to study. And yeah, just the whole aspect of mentorship is something that I really can't stress enough when it comes to trying to promote to the OFPs that you have to have a mentor in some way. And this isn't just for the sports industry either. It could be for any industry. And for you to highlight your professors in that way, it's definitely great that you still see the value in what they gave to you and helping you get your start. Going forward and understanding the competitive nature of the sports industry jobs, and I'm sure you've seen this too when having your business open. What would you say are some of the current challenges for someone that wants to work in the sports industry currently?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like the biggest one is just the competitive nature of the industry and getting a job in this industry. While it's always been competitive, I think that right now is maybe like the most competitive it's ever been.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
for anyone job searching, I'm sorry, that's not very encouraging news to hear, but it really is. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is just the economy in general. Like there was a period, probably like late spring through the summer, where sports companies were on hiring freezes, so they were not hiring anybody, or they were maybe laying people off. Like a few companies were doing that, and that was because they were afraid that there was going to be a recession. And so that really kind of like that changed the job market in sports a lot, because usually there's a lot more roles that are open during that time period, a lot more opportunities for people that are job searching. And this year there wasn't. I do see that coming back now, like as we're in the fall and as we get deeper into like the winter. I think that we're going to see like a resurgence of all of those roles that didn't open over the summer. They're going to open now, because we're, clearly not going down that trend of a recession, hopefully. And companies are a little bit more confident about opening those roles again. But that doesn't make it any less competitive. It actually makes it more competitive because there's way more people on the job hunt than obviously there are roles. And so that's a huge challenge. And if you're facing that right now, anybody listening, like, you are not alone. Like, I talk to 6 people every day that are in the same boat as you. And it's just hard, and that's how it is right now. But things do just even themselves out with time. I think like another challenge in the industry right now is just like the chaotic nature of sports. I feel like there's always like breaking news happening, or like crazy things that are going on that like nobody can like predict for, or like or plan for, that are just happening like much more frequently than they used to, like in the industry. So I think that it's a challenge for workers and people in the industry because they're having to learn how to be much more adaptable and flexible in their jobs than they ever have been before. Like, you need to be ready to be completely working on something and then immediately switch to something else and like drop everything you were doing, and now there's like an emergency or like a fire drill, like people call it, like in the corporate world, and now you're just like completely focused on something else, and you have to really hone up your like agility and like adaptability skills to really keep up with just all the stuff that's going on in sports, which is kind of crazy. But I also think it's happening in other industries too. So it's kind of just in general, like something that people need to start building those skills a little bit more. But yeah, I think those are some of the main ones I think that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like it's very rare. Well, I guess from my perspective, I would think that it's rare to hear about layoffs or hear about hiring freezes when it comes to working in the sports industry, especially with the turnover that there is with certain organizations or certain marketing sports marketing agencies or
Yeah.
groups that work close with teams or work with close with athletes. And I do feel at times that I guess when you think about the sports industry, it can align well with engineering. It can align well with medicine, finance.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that we have that reminder, at least that realization that layoffs do happen in sports. Like hiring freezes do happen in
Yeah.
sports. I mean, sports can be impacted by a recession, and like I think it is put into perspective. Like, okay, even though these jobs are seen in a certain light, they still do have the same issues as any other industry, like in the global economic spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I want to circle back more to the business and in regards to just a competitive, application pool for most jobs. Because I think about certain sports industry jobs. Like, there's, if you're looking at a job with the Mets, like we'll use the Mets as an example, and there's probably 500 applicants for that one particular position, or maybe even 5 different positions that are open with the team. Like, how do you use your business to help people that go to you, like when drafting up a resume, making a cover letter, like refurbishing their LinkedIn? What are some of the things that you help them out and trying to make them stand out in the application pool?
Yeah, great question. So I work with them on whatever their weaknesses are per se. Like, so I take a look at everything that they're doing. I kind of analyze, their current strategy, what types of roles they're applying for, what their resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn looks like, and I kind of tell them like where they maybe need the most help, and where they're probably not getting opportunities because of XYZ thing that they're doing. My whole thing that I like to do is just be very transparent with my clients, um, and just tell them the things that recruiters don't tell them. Like a lot of times people get ghosted by recruiters, or they don't get proper feedback on like why they didn't get the position. And I don't like that, and I hate that that happens like in this industry and in all industries. And so I really want to be that person that's looking at you as a recruiter and telling you like, don't do that. Like, that's not the right way to do this. Like, you're not going to get a job that way. And sometimes it's, maybe a little bit of tough love, but it's going to help you. Like, I'm only telling you that to help you. And so that's kind of, I think, a lot of the value that I provide is I'm able to kind of be a sort of kind of third party, like bird's eye view on kind of what they're doing and their strategy for their job search, and poking holes in it and telling them like what they could be doing better to see more results. Specifically when it comes to resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn profiles, a lot of what I do is help them rewrite all the content on those to really optimize it for recruiters and the types of roles that they're applying for. So, resumes go through this application system, and sometimes there are like evaluation, like tools or keywords that system is looking for to filter through candidates. Like, I help them understand like what are the actual words that they need to have on their resume to get through that system, optimizing that. When it comes to their LinkedIn profile, there's so many recruiters that are on LinkedIn that are searching profiles every single day and reaching out to people for jobs they have open. And the more keywords that you have on your LinkedIn profile, like the better chances you have of showing up in those searches and getting job opportunities without even having to apply to them. So I work with them on a lot of those things as well. But then even just building like their general job search strategy. Like some people don't have a strategy and they're just like out there applying for whatever they can. And that's not the right way to do it. Like you have to have some sort of strategy. Like there has to be some sort of thought behind how you're applying for jobs and what you're applying for. And so I work with them on that. So there's a lot of different ways that we can approach it depending on what that specific person might need or might be struggling with. And that usually helps them out. I also do have my own personal network of friends that are also recruiters that work all over the industry at leagues, teams, media companies, agencies, all the above. And so when I work with clients, my little kind of gift to them or kind of like something that I just offer them for free is referrals. So whenever they apply for jobs with the newfound skills that they learned through coaching, they let me know where they applied, and then I send a personalized referral to them on their behalf to that company whenever I do know like the recruiters there. And that helps them get through the application process and normally get like an interview and stuff. So there's lots of different ways that I like to help my clients.
Yeah, and it's definitely great that you bring that up because when we think about the whole application process when we're driving, and I'm raising my hand because I've been there and done that where I've applied to different roles. I've had to make changes to my resume, write a different cover letter over and over again, just being more descriptive and why I'm interested in the role, just to get an interview. But we think about just like where the world is going with AI and how, at times, for some companies or some organizations, when you're going through the interview process, you're actually not even talking to anybody, like a real person. You're talking to like hire review was something that I've had some experiences before in like past interviews I've done. And like I'm not saying like I'm a technophobe or anything like that. It's just like it's just the idea that, oh man, like I'm interviewing with a robot and the robot's gonna determine the fate of if I get the job or not. And I feel like when we think about just the changing of times, I think it's good for people to understand that sometimes you're not going to talk with real people. You just kind of have to rely on the system, and hopefully it works in your favor. And the idea of just going through resumes, and also like ATS scanners for resumes, something that I've learned about, and also begin to notice more and just the different jobs that I see that are open and that I'm encouraging others to apply for.
Yeah, and while we might not like that these like systems are in place, it just is like in place, and it is what it is. And so you have to again adapt and like figure out how to beat the system, how to get through like all of those different like filters and stuff that's going on. So that's kind of what I help people with. I personally, I hate HireVue. I'm just going to put that out there as a blanket statement that I hate that system. I've never used it before as a recruiter because I don't believe in that. I do believe in talking to people, but again, it doesn't matter what you believe in or not, or what you think is right and wrong. Like so many companies use it, and so you have to adapt. You have to figure out how to still show up and stand out with those different things in place. And yeah, that's what I help with.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And it's great that you're doing this for this for your business. Like it's like I'm rooting for you to have billions of clients to come to you because and I'm not sure if you had any international clients yet, or has it just been domestic for the most part?
Yeah, I do work with a lot of clients in Canada. So primarily most of my clients have been US and Canada, so kind of North America centric. I've talked to a few people in some other countries, but hopefully that's kind of like a next phase to like expansion of Elevate Sports Talent, as I can put more effort into marketing to the international audiences and things as well.
Great. Well, Parul, it's been a pleasure having you on. We're coming close to the end of our time together, but just with your experience alone, first off, congratulations on all the jobs that you've
Yeah.
held, the internships, just starting your own business to help others, like OFPs to get into the industry themselves,
Yeah.
and just going forward and having the OFPs hear your story and being motivated by it. What piece of advice would you give to the OFPs that will hear this episode or watch this, and what is something that you're hoping for yourself going forward?
Yeah. Advice that I would give, this is a great question because I have so much advice that I would give. I think the main thing is to be patient. And I say
Mm,
that because I talk every day with people that are on the job hunt. They're really struggling. They're losing patience. They're losing confidence in themselves. Like the job search
mhm,
is a terrible process. Like it hurts your self-esteem. It hurts your confidence. It hurts your mental health. Like there's a lot of things that go into like being an active job seeker and looking for a job, especially if you're someone that's been laid off and you're not currently working,
right.
or you're like a recent graduate that hasn't gotten their first job yet. That's a really hard position to be in, and sometimes it can feel a little bit desperate. Or even if you're just you're applying for jobs all the time and you're not getting them, like you can feel a little bit desperate. That's where I just really like to give my clients the advice of like, you have to just be patient because, the world works in weird ways and good things happen to good people. And I'm very much a believer in that, like the energy that you put into the universe, like you get back for yourself. So, a lot of times I'll have clients that are just frustrated and they're like, I should just stop. I should go work in a different industry. Like, I'm not getting any results. At the end of the day, the people that put in the most effort and they do the most work, like they will find that role at the end of the day. Like everybody will get the job that they were meant to get, and they will find success. It's just sometimes it takes longer than others. I've been in a position where I was let go from a job and I was unemployed for 8 months, and that was like the hardest period of my life. And I went through that desperation, and I was like, anybody hire me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Um, that's the whole thing. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just very competitive, and you have to be patient and let the process do its thing. And I promise you, you will get the job that you were meant to get. You just have to kind of like keep that faith. And I just see that in so many people, like so many people losing that faith. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep it and, stay true to yourself and you'll get that job. As far as me and what I'm hoping for myself, I mean, I'm just hoping to grow and expand on my business. In my personal life, like I've never been an entrepreneur before. This has been a crazy experience for me. I've learned so much in only 4 months about business and everything, marketing, sales, like finance, like all the things that I had never worked in before. So I didn't really know these spaces that much. And being an entrepreneur kind of forces you into all of those different areas. Um, so I really hope to just continue learning, continue growing, continuing to stay in touch with what people are looking for and what people need in this industry from me and what I can best provide and be of the most value, and just continue to show up for those people in those ways. And yeah, that is all.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you're doing an awesome job so
Thank
far,
you.
and and again, like for me to help you out, I'm gonna make sure to leave the links to Elevate Sports Talent in the description so people can know where to
Yeah,
find your business. So, like the OFPs can go to you for help, like in their career development, because
yeah,
just go a little more on the backstory of why I wanted to start this podcast because I wanted to start this to where I can help encourage the next generation that may be playing sports right now in high school or in college, and we probably aren't sure that there's opportunities to work in sports if they don't go pro at the sport that they're playing at right now. Because we know the numbers, we know that there's slim chances that somebody's going to go pro in their sport, but at least if you have the background like as an athlete, you could transfer that into being an off-field player. Like me, baseball didn't work out for me, and
yeah,
but at the same time I wanted to make sure that I understood sports from a business perspective to be able to transition from having the mindset of an athlete, or in this case an on-field player, to transferring over to be an off-field player. So, and what you're doing with your business, that's exactly what you're doing. You're helping turn people into off-field players. So definitely, big props to you, giving you your flowers for doing what you do, and keep going at it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the success of the podcast as well. It's awesome. And yeah, hopefully I see many of you soon.
Yeah, remember OFPs, look out for Elevate Sports Talent if you need some help, and like refurbishing your resume, cover letter, job searches in the sports, like where to go find Elevate Sports Talent. But
Parl,
Khosla, thank you so much for joining me on the Off Field Players podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you, highlighting your business, and wishing you nothing but the best for you going forward with your career, and also just your business itself, and really just in life, just going forward, just growing as a person. And just thank you so much for coming on doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the Off Field Players podcast. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in, watched till the end. And again, I'll make sure to leave
Parl,
information to her LinkedIn and her business, Elevate Sports Talent, in the description, so you know where to find her, know where to find her business, and also look for her if you need some help in trying to grow your career path, trying to work in the sports industry. But as always, if you watch the video version of this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with anybody that that's looking to work in the sports industry, and also just to help grow the podcast. I mean, it does great things when we can use the podcast to reach more people. Trying to go international with it, so definitely do everything you can to broadcast it, expand it, and just promote it. Because I could only do so much on my end. And also, if you listen to the audio version on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, or Radio Public, make sure to leave a 5-star review for me. Make sure to follow to stay up to date on future episodes. And of course, if you want to follow Off-Field Players on social media, it's at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Again, it's at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. So that's going to wrap it up for me. I've been your host, Phil Hall, and I've been alongside my guest, Parul Khosla, today for an informational interview number 7 for All Field Players podcast. And make sure to look out for future episodes that are soon to come. And just want to wish everybody have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay motivated, stay focused, stay strong. And as always, make sure to achieve what you believe.